welcome to 2022 Sioux Empire United Way campaign training. My name is Olivia Essig. I am the campaign director with Sioux Empire United Way. And if you're watching this video, there's probably a really good chance that you are a volunteer for us this year. So either in the role of employee campaign manager or Heart Club coordinator or internal committee member of some kind. So thank you for giving your time and talents and being a part of the campaign this year. Also, thank you to your company for allowing us to be within your workplace and allowing us to raise funds through that method. We raise about 70% of the dollars that we raise in our campaign goal through these employee campaigns. And so you allowing us in your workplace and giving your time to make sure that your campaign is the best it can be is such a difference maker, and it really goes such a long ways. So thank you so much. As part of this video, in the description of the video, you're going to find a couple of resources that you can reference throughout this training. One of them being the Employee Campaign Manual. And I'll refer to that a little bit throughout this training. So if you want to have that maybe pulled up in another tab so you can toggle back and forth, that would be great. And then I also will have a link to the training deck that I'll be using during this training. That way, if you have any questions, anything you want to review after today, you're able to reference that through that training deck. So you may be a first-time volunteer, you may be a veteran of ours that's been with us for many years, but United Way is a central fundraiser through that funds human service needs here within our community, specifically within the areas of children, vulnerable adults, and people in crisis. We serve about 1 in 3 people, so a lot of impact with just one donation. And we're able to allocate 90 cents of every dollar that's raised by United Way straight to our funded agencies. The reason that we're able to keep that overhead so low is because we operate with just 9 paid staff and hundreds of volunteers that make that possible. So a lot of impact with just one donation that goes a really long ways. And not just in Sioux Falls either. We fund the 4-county area of Lincoln, McCook, Minnehaha, and Turner counties. So about 33 communities in that 4-county area. And so a lot of impact with just one donation and funding those human service needs here within our community. So we are the second in the nation in per capita giving here in the Sioux Falls, Sioux Empire United Way, which is a really big deal for a town the size of ours. Typically a town the size of Sioux Falls would raise about 1.6 million or so, and our United Way raises over 10 million. So that just goes to show how generous of a community that we live in that raises that much for nonprofits, and just United Way raises that much. So really a fantastic accomplishment for our community. And this year is no different. We have a lofty goal once again. This year's goal is $10,050,622. So it's really down to the dollar there, 622. So how do we decide what programs get funding? This is quite the process every year, and to share about it, we have our Community Impact Director, Christina Riss, to talk a little bit more about the Community Impact process and what that all entails.
Hi, I'm Christina Riss, Community Impact Director with United Way, and I am excited to share with you today a little bit more about the role the Community Impact Division plays in identifying the needs of our community and ultimately setting our campaign goal. And I am going to start by giving you an overview of our 2022 funding decisions. The Community Impact Division is made up of approximately 60 volunteers, and we divide those 60 volunteers up into 6 different committees. So we refer to them as our teams. And we really do that so that each one of those teams is reviewing similar types of programming. And that really allows them to better understand the needs for that particular impact area within the community. So they can really be much more confident when they're making their funding decisions, having all of that information. This year, the volunteers, and typically each year our volunteers spend approximately 1,000 hours going through this process. And at the end of that 1,000 hours this year, our volunteers recommended funding to 85 programs within 40 different agencies. And just to give you a better idea of what our timeline really looks like, each December is when our applications are made available. And so in the months of December and January is when our agencies are completing their application. And those of you that may not be as familiar with, what our application process looks like, we do have a very in-depth application process. Our application really focuses on the need for that particular program within our community. the number of individuals that are served by that program, as well as the outcomes. Obviously, it's wonderful if a program is serving 500 people, but our volunteers and obviously our donors are really focused on how the lives of those 500 individuals are impacted and positively impacted by that program. And then obviously the other key piece of our application is that financials. So really understanding what the trends look like for the financials within that particular organization and programming. So our volunteers are able to really look at that information and be able to make a funding recommendation. And so again, the agencies are really compiling all of that information in the months of December and January. And then in February is when our volunteers are really kind of preparing for their big review process. And that review process takes place in March and April. Typically, we are meeting in person with with our agencies. That's looked a little bit different the last few years, but in the months of March and April, our volunteers are really reviewing that application and meeting with the agencies, having that dialogue, asking their questions, making sure that any questions or concerns that they may have are addressed, so that they can make the best funding decision possible. And so once a team has met with all of the programs that fall within that impact area, the volunteers then get back together and make a funding recommendation. And so once all of the teams have met and made their initial funding recommendations, we then have all of our chairs get together and review everything. And so each one of those 6 community impact teams is made up of 2 volunteer leaders, and we refer to them as our chairs. And so those chairs then will review all of the recommendations that are coming forward from the team level, and they will make a funding recommendation to our board of directors. Typically, our chair meeting and our board meeting take place in the month of May. And so once our board has had a chance to review all of those recommendations coming forward from the Impact Division, that is really when they ultimately set that campaign goal for the next year. So just to cover a few recent changes. 2 years ago, we moved to an online application process. So now our agencies are able to access their materials from anywhere, as well as our volunteers. So that's been a really great change. We also have changed to a 2-year funding cycle. And so we used to review every single program every year, but we really wanted to be able to be a more consistent funding source for our agencies. And so for those agencies that are pretty, stable, very consistent, they don't have a lot of changes taking place. Our volunteers are very comfortable with their outcomes. They're comfortable with their financial information. They're able to really make 2-year funding decisions. And then during that off year, they still submit an off-year report. So we're still able to track those outcomes and the number of individuals served and that type of information. Of course, if our volunteers ever have any questions or concerns about a specific program, or maybe there's just a lot of changes taking place within an organization or within a particular program, our volunteers still have the opportunity to say, we want to meet with you again next year, and so we're going to have you go through that full process again the following year. And obviously the other change that had to take place the last 2 years was holding virtual meetings. So again, we typically do meet with the agencies in person, but this past year we held virtual meetings with our organizations, and so our volunteers were still able to, have that meeting with our agencies, but it was held virtually versus that face-to-face meeting. When our volunteers are really looking at programs and they're looking at how to fund a specific program, whether it's to fund that particular program or not, or at what funding level, there's a few key things that they really look at. Again, that need. How important is that program to the community? Outcomes are always such a key piece of that as well. Really, how effective is that service in changing lives? The stage of development. So really looking at is the need for this particular program increasing or decreasing, as well as looking at their financials. Our volunteers are able to look at the last 3 years of actuals. They're able to look at their audited financials, and they're really able to then kind of see what that financing pattern and what their financial need really is for a particular program. And then another key item is their management. And so really being able to look at the overall effectiveness and efficiencies of the program. And so in doing so, they may be looking at other similar types of programs within our community to compare some of this information. They may also be looking at information from similar programs across the country. And so these are just a few of the key items that our volunteers really look at when they're making their funding considerations. When they're looking at an actual funding dollar amount, there are reasons that a program may receive increases, as well as a reason that a program may receive less funding than they did the prior year. And so just to give you a quick overview of some of the reasons that we might have an increase. Obviously, a new program is that's the most obvious one. If they didn't receive the funding the prior year and they're receiving funding the first time in our 2022 campaign, that would obviously be a reason for a funding increase. This year, we do have one new organization that will be receiving funding, and that organization is Tallgrass Recovery and Sober Living Homes. And so with a successful 2022 campaign, we'll be able to provide scholarships for individuals that are really needing to access recovery services from alcohol and drug addiction. And so we're excited to be able to provide that in the 2022 year. Obviously, if there's an increase in community need for that particular program, or the program is expanding and serving more individuals, that would be a reason that we would be looking at giving an increase. And of course, it's always going to be key that the organization and that program are able to really show strong outcomes. On the other side of things, there are instances where funding decreases are appropriate. Moving towards self-sufficiency or having strong reserves is one of those. Sometimes it's our volunteers that really look at their financials and identify that. In other cases, the agency may come to us and say, we're in a good, strong financial position, and we either don't need United Way funding for the next year, or we need less funding. And this year, I'm happy to be able to share with you two success stories. Feeding South Dakota, their backpack program, as well as the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation. Both organizations were able to come to us earlier this year and basically say thank you for the long-term support. It's really helped us kind of get to the place where we are today. And at this point in time, we do not need United Way funding for 2022. Both organizations wanted us to be able to free up those dollars for other needs within the community. And so those are both, great success stories. Of course, things can change, and in the future, if they need funding, we have great relationships with those organizations, and that they can come back and apply for funding in the future if they should experience that additional need in the future. That did happen several years ago with Feeding South Dakota. We had provided funding to that organization, and they had moved to self-sufficiency, and then we were able to come back in and help to support the backpack program. And so that does happen from time to time, and of course, they are always able to apply for funding if that should become a need. Another reason for a funding decrease is just a lack of community need for the program. Things change within our community, needs change within our community, and perhaps that program just isn't quite as needed as it maybe historically was. If there's any concerns with the overall efficiencies of a program, that would be another reason to be looking at a decrease. And then just in general, if there's lack of clarity around any information for our volunteers, specifically if you're talking about that financial information, our volunteers take their role very seriously of being stewards of the donor funds that are entrusted in United Way. And so they want to make sure that the financial information is very clear, and that they know and that they can confidently say that those dollars are going to meet a need within our community. And so this last slide is just a visual to kind of give you an overview of those 40 agencies and 85 different programs that we will be able to support through a successful 2022 campaign. If you should have any questions at all about the CommunePack process, or how the funding is determined, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm always more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Great. So now that we heard from Christina a little bit more about that community impact process and why United Way does what we do within the community, we're going to learn a little bit more about your role as a volunteer and how we do what we do on the campaign side in raising funds. So in that employee campaign manual that I referenced at the beginning of training, you'll find a couple of job descriptions for employee campaign manager as well as Heart Club coordinator. But really, these individuals, you are really responsible for organizing your employee campaign at your company and making it the most successful campaign that you can have. So that can look like a variety of things, some responsibilities and timelines, attend training. So by watching this video today, you can already mark something off of your list. We also recommend that you attend an agency tour. That is available in the campaign manual as well. There's a full list available to you there. Looks kind of like this. And that is a great way to kind of see behind the doors at some of our agencies and learn more about how they're impacting the community. There's so much good happening within our nonprofit community here in the Sioux Falls area. And so I really encourage you to check out those agency tours. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the training as well. Analyze your company's past campaign history and identify some opportunity for this year's campaign, and then set goals based on those on that campaign history. I highly recommend that you recruit an internal campaign of some kind if you haven't done that already. This is just a great way to kind of divide and conquer and split up the roles and the responsibilities of the employee campaign manager. It's also just helpful to have a variety of United Way champions, people that employees can go to when they have questions or when they have feedback of any kind. So if you have a campaign committee, it certainly helps make the job a bit easier. Create a timeline for your company's campaign. So campaigns typically run in September and October, but we have campaigns that run all throughout the year. So base it on maybe when you have slower times as a company, if that exists, and try to incorporate it at the time that works best for you. Internally publicize the campaign through email, posters, personal notes, intranet, whatever you use to communicate with your employees. Be the point of contact for United Way questions within your company. Another great way that I've seen this done for companies that have internal committees is to have a United Way email, actually. So unitedway@company.com. That way, all of the internal committee members have access to that email and can kind of divide answering those questions. And when there is a question that comes through in the inbox, anybody who's able to see that can answer it. So that's a great way to kind of have a centralized area for questions to go as well if you have a campaign committee. And then increase your company's employee giving and participation by having fun and trying new things. I love United Way campaign time specifically because it brings people together. We've had a long year of being apart in 2020 and the beginning of 2021. And people are excited to have that camaraderie of the United Way campaign. So when possible, have fun with it, have a theme, have activities and special events, and make this a time for your employee base to kind of gather and, get to know each other and get reacquainted. So we also strive to have completed rallies by October 31st, if possible. If not, we certainly accept pledges any other time as well. It's also great if you're able to really wrap up not only the rally, but the pledging process by the end of the year. The reason being because it is easiest when you're able to start those employee payroll deductions right at the beginning of the year with your payroll office. So that's a good date to aim for. Certainly not a requirement, but kind of dates that we look at when we're setting our timelines internally. So on your screen, you will see an example of a sample rally. We highly encourage rallies or team meetings of some kind during campaign time to just kind of talk a little bit more about United Way and explain this year's campaign. So a lot of times that will open up with either you or someone on your committee kind of introducing the campaign and the rally. We also highly recommend that if possible, get your manager involved, get your CEO involved, your shift manager or your department head, whatever that looks like. When you can have support from leadership and show that, it really goes a long way with the campaign. So include them and make sure they're part of that process as well. You can also have a United Way staff or a volunteer come talk. And then we highly encourage getting an agency speaker. An agency speaker can come from any of our 40 agencies or 80 programs. And it's a great way for them to really talk about how they utilize United Way funds and the impact that comes with that. Really sharing some powerful testimonials and showing the impact and outcomes that your United Way donation makes. Make sure you make the ask. The number one reason why people cite not giving to an organization is because they never feel like they were asked. So make those personal touches. We highly recommend that you have everyone fill out a pledge card, even if they choose not to give. That's a great way to make sure that they have been asked and that you know they've been asked and made that decision. And set an end date for them to get those pledges in. So that's important as well, and communicate that at your rally. And say thank you. Once you complete your campaign, make sure you celebrate that, and all the good things that you've done for the community as a result of having this United Way campaign. So celebrating can look many different ways. It can be as simple as an email to say we reached X participation and X dollars for the Sue Empire United Way. It can be a lunch or a breakfast. It can be an incentive of some kind for reaching your goals. So celebrate and publicly report your results. I mentioned that a great part of the United Way campaign is being able to have fun and engage your employees and bring them together. So a few different ways to engage employees include special events and campaign incentives. There is a list of both of these included in your campaign packet. And these special events are a great way to just drive some fun around your campaign. Trivia, cornhole or a bags tournament, decorate your door or your cubicle, have an exercise challenge or a treasure hunt of some kind. Just have fun activities that drive some energy around your campaign and incentivize people to give and want to participate. Incentives are also a great way to encourage that. So whether it's paid time off for a certain amount pledged, or a company t-shirt for becoming a Heart Club member, or a parking spot, or having your CEO clean off the windshield of someone's car who wins for a week when it's snowy. Get creative. It doesn't have to be a huge budget item always for your company, but just having those incentives are a great way to thank donors for giving and kind of encourage that within your company. I would also highly recommend agency tours for your employees. So like I said, we have some previously scheduled tours online. If you go to seu.org/agency-tours, you can sign up for tours there. But we can also set up special group tours on a date that works for you that are specific to your company. So when you do that, it's great to incentivize people for going. So if they get signed off that they went to that agency tour, they maybe get a number of raffle tickets to be entered to win a prize. Or maybe they get X hours of PTO time to volunteer, or a free lunch while they're out doing that tour. So incentivize those tours. Just like the agency speakers, tours are a great way for you to hear those testimonials, see clients that have benefited from our United Way funded programs firsthand, and just really be able to see behind the doors at places that are doing a lot of good here in the Soo Empire. We also have a group through Soo Empire United Way called Emerging Leaders that your employees are welcome to join as well. It is a young professionals group with really no age limit, so everybody's young, right? And you can join that at seu.org/emerging-leaders. And they pretty much volunteer monthly, sometimes a few times a month, at different United Way funded agencies. And that can look like serving dinner at St. Francis House. They have participated in Workers on Wheels Rake the Town in the past. They have helped with sharing Christmas during the holidays. They have helped with furniture deliveries through Furniture Mission. So a lot of really fun volunteer activities, and it's a great way to get your employees involved with United Way funded agencies and learn more about them in that way too. The Speakers Bureau, this is where you'll go to request your agency speakers. You can also email me directly, but there is a form on our website at seu.org/speakers-bureau. You can request a speaker based on your employee demographic. If you know that the people at your business enjoy learning more about programs targeted toward kids or towards seniors or towards people with disabilities, we can take that into account when we're scheduling a speaker for you and make sure that we get a speaker that really speaks to your employee audience. Email templates. So email templates are available on our website at seu.org, and it's right in the campaign toolkit. And those are a really great resource for you. They are editable, so you can change the wording, you can add your own incentives, you can add your own timelines. They include videos or examples of impact and outcomes. And so that's a great way. Utilize those and kind of edit them to your needs and send those out as a way to communicate the campaign. We know that many of you still have quite a few employees working remotely for your company, and there are some options for online giving that may help in reaching them. So there are actually 3 different options for online giving through United Way. They're all just a little bit different. The first one is the online pledge payment form. The biggest thing that sets this apart is that you can only choose 2 options for paying your pledge: payroll deduction and credit card, or direct bill and credit card. So there are only 2 options to pay your pledge. This I typically recommend to companies if they don't have payroll deduction at their company. Then you can have a reoccurring or one-time credit card donation, which kind of mimics that same payment schedule. And so I pretty much recommend this one to companies that do not have payroll deduction at their company. You can still customize the URL and have a title right on your giving page. You can include a message from your CEO, the company goal. So you can really, we can edit that for you to make it personalized to your employees. The second one is the online pledge form. The thing that sets this one apart is that you can have a long list of ways to pay that, whether it's direct bill, payroll deduction, credit card, whatever payment forms your company wants to offer employees, you can have on this form. The thing that makes it different from the previous form is that you cannot complete your credit card pledge right on this form. So if someone chooses credit card as a way to pay, it'll basically reroute them to a secure page to make that credit card donation. So just one more step if they do choose credit card donation. And then the last one is probably the most detailed option that we have, and it's called ePledge. And this one allows the volunteer or the payroll administration to access kind of the back end of that website and run reports based on who's filled out a pledge or who hasn't filled out a pledge, who pledged last year, but we haven't heard from them this year. The other thing I love about ePledge is that it will load all of the givers' previous giving information. So they will be able to access what they gave in prior years and kind of base their pledge for this year off of that. The one thing with this is it does require user IDs and passwords assigned to all of your employees. And so United Way can assist with that process, but it just means that it's more of a secure form that they have to actually sign in with a username and password. And we use that email for signing on for access to ePledge. So how to get started, you can contact Brandy at seu.org or by calling our office at 336-2095. And if you're unsure which of these options is going to be best for you, we as staff can help you determine that based on your past giving, your employee demographic, maybe how comfortable they are with using online resources. So we can definitely help you make that decision. And then for ePledge, that one that's a little bit more detailed, we will need about 2 weeks in advance notice from when you want to begin using that. So if you think that you might be leaning toward that option, you will want to get in touch with us kind of as soon as possible to get that started and get the ball rolling there. The other 2 options are really easy. We only need about 24 hours notice for those, so we can get that put together for you quite quickly. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about Heart Club. So what is Heart Club? Heart Club is the leadership giving program of Sioux Empire United Way, and it is any individual or couple who gives $500 or more, and they are considered a Heart Club member. So like I said, this can be an individual or a couple, so you can combine it with your spouse. So if they give $250 at their employer and you give $250 at yours, you can combine that to reach Heart Club. And it can also be reached on your own if you prefer. And then we also have a Rising Heart program, and that is when givers make a minimum pledge of $250 with a plan to increase their pledge over 5 years to $500. And so this was started in 1984 with just 124 members and made up about 4.4% of the campaign. And in the 2021 campaign, we had 6,900 individuals who were Heart Club givers. And that did include 1,041 who pledged at the Rising Heart Club level as well. So between all those contributions, that made up over $5 million for the campaign, or about 54% of the campaign. So a huge part of of us making our goal is those Heart Club and leadership givers. Like I said, I encourage you to look at Heart Club win setting goals for this year as well, because it really makes a huge difference to have people on board for Heart Club. You can set incentives specifically around Heart Club. You can have events specifically for Heart Club givers to encourage that. I would also just recommend that you don't count anybody out. I know there are a lot of times where you may be surprised by who wants to give at a Heart Club level and who wants to be a leadership giver. It's not always who you would think it would be. Sometimes it's based on the fact that they've used United Way programs in the past. And so make the ask to everybody within your company. You don't want to rule anybody out to be a Heart Club giver, because a lot of people do want to participate at that level, and it helps grow the results for your campaign. So in reviewing your giving history and kind of helping you to set goals there, you will have a campaign profile report that looks like this. And that is going to be a great way for you to kind of analyze your past campaign results. So there's a portion of the report that says employee giving, and right next to that, there's a portion that says pledges. So pledges are the dollar amount that you raised in those previous years. You should have about a 4-year campaign history listed there. Right next to that, there are special events. So a special event is anything where a good or service was exchanged. And so any dollars that are raised from participating in, a lunch or a competition of some kind or something throughout your campaign will be included under the special events dollars. We also have a number of employees and participation based on that number of employees. If you feel for some reason that the number of employees on your report is not accurate, just let us know and we can adjust that, because that will obviously affect your participation rate as well. So if for some reason that's not accurate, let us know and we can update that in our database as well. And then lower beneath that is a place for leaders. This report, leaders, is referring to Heart Club givers. So this tells you how many Heart Club givers you have at your company and the dollars that they raised. So leader dollar is the dollar amount that Heart Club givers raised for your campaign. So as you look through this, setting your goal can really be based on the SWOT analysis. So strengths, worries, opportunities, and trends. So look at those strengths, look at the worries, look at the opportunities, look at the trends throughout your campaign, and really set your goals based on that. So if you have low participation, set a goal to get more people involved. If you have a low average gift, set a goal to get more people started with Rising Heart or Heart Club. Set incentives around those goals and kind of communicate those goals to your employees. You can also review the company award categories. So those are also included within your packet. And there are a variety of different employee campaign awards, ranging from appreciation to achievement, to distinction, to excellence. And they're all based on the average gift amount and the participation at your company. So if you're really close to one of those award categories, setting a goal to maybe reach the appreciation level or the achievement level, that can be a great way to set goals for your campaign as well. So you can reference those employee and company awards in the manual that's provided to you as well. We have a variety of campaign resources to help you throughout this as well. So do reference our website. There is a lot to look through there on the campaign toolkit. So if you go to seuw.org, the campaign toolkit includes things like the email templates that I talked about. There's also logos, graphics, printables, things that you can share through email or print off and share them with your employees. So really, I encourage you to look there, click around and see all those resources there. We also have in your town handouts that you can print out. So if you have a large employee base from maybe surrounding communities, I talked about how United Way impacts 33 communities and not just the Sioux Falls area, but those in your town printouts are great because they'll actually pinpoint exactly how many individuals from your community were serviced by United Way funded agencies. And so it really breaks it down based on community or on different areas of the Sioux Falls network that we serve and surrounding communities to really counties and to see what impact those United Way agencies had specifically in those areas. We also have agency speaker requests and tour sign up right on the website that are great resources for you. And casual day stickers are available at the office as well if you have any incentives where you could utilize those. So your next steps, planning your campaign. Meet with your committee if you haven't done that yet, or recruit a committee, and determine all of those things that we talked about today. Goals, themes, and fun activities around your campaign, your rally date, any activities, special events, incentives, any deadlines that you want to communicate, or timelines of kind of when you want to have certain things done by. Determine all of that, set a plan in motion, and really have some checklist items that you can follow throughout your campaign. And then as you determine those things, do communicate it with your loan executive or your campaigner. That's going to be the individual that's kind of your liaison between us and the campaigns. And so that's a great way for us to kind of just stay involved and know that everything's running to schedule. You may not need as much assistance from your loan executive or your campaigner. In that case, you can just kind of update them and let them know that everything's running fine. So that concludes this year's campaign training video. I just wanted to say thank you one last time. I know I've said that a few times throughout this video, but we really could not do what we do without the support of you and your company and you giving your time and talents to make sure that we have a successful campaign. So thank you so much. I also just want to offer myself as a resource. It is my job to make sure that you are successful as a volunteer. So feel free to reach out at any time. My email is olivia@seuw.org. You can also call our office at 336-2095. So feel free to do that and reach out to me. I am here to help, whether it is ideas or, running something around town or dropping something off or speaking at a rally. Anything that I can do, I am here to help. So thank you so much again. I hope we have a successful campaign and thank you for being a part of it.